Hi guys, this is Rohan Raval. Welcome to Numbers. So last week we uploaded a schedule on how will you prepare from week 1 to week 4. Let's take it forward. How will you prepare for CAT from week 5 to week 8? So if you've been following my schedule religiously, which I'm sure you are, from week 1 to week 4, if you notice, as I spoke in the previous video, you'll be able to finish 40 to 50% of a CAT syllabus, which means any mock you write, you'll be able to score a 120 plus in the same mock. Alright, let's take it forward. How will you go about from week 5 onwards? Now, since week 5 to week 8, the last 4 weeks to CAT are going to be pretty important when it comes to CAT preparation. So, what I would recommend is when it comes to week 5, we'll do something which has a lot of weight when it comes to the number of questions asked in the exam. So, we'll do something like geometry. So, if you look at the schedule, we have in quant, we'll stick to something like geometry, or even if you have modified the schedule as per your convenience, you can start with something like permutation, combination, or maybe probability, or you can do all three together, PNC, probability and numbers together, something like that, depending on the previous preparations you've already had. Alright, so let's talk about this. In this particular schedule, I recommend that in week 5 we'll do geometry. This particular thing, geometry, includes three topics here: geometry, mensuration, and chord geom. Since all these topics are interlinked, you must do all these three topics together. Make sure you take a note of all the properties of the figures, because even if you look at NMAT recently for the past 1 week, they've been asking questions on geometry based on properties. So properties of geometrical figures, triangles, circles, squares, parallelepipeds, everything is very much essential. When it comes to basics, just solve basic questions for starters, so you know the properties, use those properties in those questions. When it comes to mensuration, you must take a note of all the formulas. You must have made a concept book by now, so make sure you know all those concepts in this book. Okay, specifically when it comes to geometry, the properties of the figures as well as the formulas. And when it comes to the chord geometry part, just do something like distance formula, all those things. Again, you make sure that you note all of that in the concept book, because this particular topic will come for around 8 to 10 questions in CAT. These three topics together will have 8 to 10 questions as a contribution. So it's a huge topic, in other words. That's why week 5 should be a big start, because you have now 4 weeks left for CAT. You should start big. Okay, that is why I recommended something like geometry, mensuration, and chord geom. And make sure you note all questions, because usually what happens is in geometry, you will have questions that are usually asked earlier in CAT, or you might find similar questions in the mock, exactly the same question in the paper as well. Alright, so when it comes to quant, I'd suggest stick to geometry. When it comes to DI, I would suggest do inlets and outlets. Okay, there's one simple topic, it just has two variations, so you can do inlets and outlet. When it comes to solving papers, again stick to the past CAT papers. Now week 5, I've emphasized more on looking at the past CAT papers. Till week 4, you're just preparing. You're just like on an infancy stage when it comes to CAT preparation. But now from week 5 onwards, since you're already done with 40 to 50% of the syllabus, I would suggest start looking at CAT papers. You might look at CAT papers from 2002 to 2008. After this, CAT went online, so we don't have a physical copy of the paper or a PDF of the paper, in other words, but you can look at least these 7 years papers and do all the DI sets that you've already learned in the previous 4 weeks out here. When it comes to LR, do just binary logic, because anyway quant is very high this week. You're supposed to dedicate a lot of time when it comes to quant. It's better if you do light topics when it comes to DI and LR. So we'll do binary logic. Again, it has just 2 types or 3 types maximum of number of questions. Okay, you can search for something called as knights and knave questions in Google. Okay, also you can check out our website for the same. You'll find some knights and knave questions out there. These questions are completely based on binary logic. When it comes to the verbal side of it, you may decrease the number of RCs. Since you're solving like 10 RCs every day, now we can reduce it to 5, because now we can focus on the other side of the verbal. Like you can start with PJs, you can do grammar exercises, and you can start with basics of critical reasoning. Now in critical reasoning, make sure you just do 5 things. You have to do assumptions, okay, you have to do conclusions and inferences, and also strengthening and weakening. Only these 5 things come as questions in CAT papers. So you have assumptions, direct question, conclusion, direct question, inference, direct question, and you may have strengthening and weakening question asked in the exam, like which of the following argument strengthens or which of the following statements strengthens the argument, which of the following most likely to be true will weaken the given assumption or given conclusion, something like that. Okay, when it comes to the mocks, you now have to write 3 mocks. So one day you'll write the mock, and one day you'll just analyze the mock. So keep one day for analysis. Okay, entire day just to analyze. Now when it comes to analysis, how will you analyze your mock? I'll talk about that when the mock analysis comes in. In that video I'll be speaking about how to analyze a mock. Going further, so we have week 6. When it comes to week 6, we'll be doing something like functions, because again functions or maybe any other chapter of higher math, they are very easy chapters because they have fixed number of questions. So here in functions you just have 8 patterns of questions that can be asked in any paper of CAT. If you look at any mock for that matter, you'll just find 8 pattern of questions. There are just 8 questions, that's about it. Okay, so you'll do functions. Okay, you'll do graphs, because graphs, the best method I have discovered for solving graphs is use substitution. So you can substitute the value of x to get the value of y, and if it matches the equation, that equation becomes the equation of the graph, or vice versa. When it comes to another topic of quant, another heavy topic of quant, you're supposed to do permutations and combinations. Now keep in mind, I've kept 2 important topics when it comes to week 5 and week 6, because the last 4 weeks are very crucial and the retention will be really high. Also your involvement should be high here, because you're supposed to do 8 hours of study every day anyhow. Break your time into 2 hours each if you're not somebody who sits for 8 hours at a stretch, but you must do 8 hours of dedicated effort from week 5 onwards. When it comes to DI, you must go for missing data DI kind of questions. There's a lot of questions of missing data when it comes to CAT 06, CAT 7 and CAT 8. Okay, now since you have a calculator integrated in the CAT interface, what will happen is a lot of questions of DI will be all concept based or missing data questions, because of one simple reason: you have the calculator. So what's the point of asking calculation questions? Also look at how do you merge pie charts. So if you look at, there are again patterns of pie charts. So you sometimes have 5 pie charts to merge with each other and find the answer interlinked from one pie chart to the other, or maybe more. Okay, so you do those questions. When it comes to LR, start doing puzzles and caselets. Like you may solve like 2 to 3 caselets every day if you wish, from this week onwards till the end, because caselets would be around 6 questions when it comes to CAT. Alright, do Einstein puzzles. You may Google these, as I've mentioned in the pattern itself, in the schedule itself. When it comes to verbal, now since you've started inferences in the previous week, you may stick to inferences. Now start doing inferences on a full-fledged basis. Learn all the rules of inferences, assumptions, conclusions, and strengthening and weakening. Solve at least 10 questions a day. Now from here onwards, you'll be doing just inferences every day for 10 questions every day from week 6 till the time you have your CAT. Okay, same goes with LR. You have to do caselets every day from now on, and again you write 3 mocks this week. Your score around approximately should reach 140ish by week 6. Okay, when it comes to week 7, now since we've done the basics here, we can take it advanced in the next week and do probability, because again once you know the advanced probability, just about adding the denominator and choosing the sample. Alright, when it comes to higher math, do basics of ILS and higher math. So just do basics of indices, logarithms and surds. Okay, all just know what is indices. Inverse of indices is kind of logarithms, and surds are basically irrational numbers. When it comes to data interpretation in week 7, do mixed DI and practice DI that has 2 or more mixed chart. You might have seen this kind of a DI where you have a table and a pie chart together, or maybe there's a stacked kind of a chart where you have a bar graph stacked with a line graph like this. So something like that. These kind of questions you must do in week 7 when it comes to DI. When it comes to LR, now since you're doing caselets every day, you must also integrate something like seating arrangements. There can be rectangular seating arrangement, it can be circular, or it can be any other form of seating arrangement. So you must know all the rules of seating arrangement, like what is left, what is right, what is exactly 2 places to the right, or maybe 2 places to the right, anything like that. Alright, when it comes to verbal, do facts, inference and judgment, since you're doing critical reasoning. So in a way I'm linking everything. So if you it's more like a continuous schedule. So if you do inferences, now we can do facts and judgments and try to differentiate between inference and judgments. Alright, again write 3 mocks a week. By here you should target somewhere around 145 to 150 odd marks when it comes to your mocks. So you have an increase since you are doing more topics here. In each of the sections you're doing more topics, you can expect a score of at least a 10 boost or something like that. Okay, and as and when you move ahead with the mocks, keep analyzing them regularly so that the increase in marks is also consistent, so that you don't get demoralized. I mean, like this happens usually, like your score goes to a certain level, let's say 130, 135, and it just stops there. That happens because you don't analyze the mock really well. Okay, you don't know what are your strong areas, you don't know which questions to attempt at the start, etc. Coming to week 8, your final leap to CAT, and this week you'll be doing higher math. When it comes to higher math, if you've noticed, I've been talking higher math in the past 3 weeks, like week 6, 7, and 8 is all about higher math, because every higher math chapter, be it functions that I spoke in week 6, higher layers that I spoke in week 7, and week 8, again, higher math includes progressions. It includes something like inequalities, moduluses, maxima, and minima. All these chapters have pattern questions. So you'll have, on an average, if you look at all the CAT papers, you'll just see 3 to 4 types of questions per chapter. All you gotta do in the final 2-3 weeks when it comes to higher math is just go through these 3-4 patterns, and you'll have exactly the same pattern question asked in your exam. So you take a note of all the patterns and formulas again, and do trigonometry, understand the curves and the addition theorem, and finally do the modulus part of it. What kind of graph will be for the modulus, what kind of area for the modulus, and everything like that in the last week. And when it comes to data interpretation, you must do your web charts, because web chart is something which is very unique, not really asked as such, but you can just go through it. Just when it comes to the last week, you just have to glance through these things. When it comes to, let's say, quant, coming back again to quant, so we'll have to just do these 3-4 patterns and just glance through these patterns. Try to practice 1 or 2 questions of the same pattern, and that should be enough. When it comes to DI, again, we're doing web charts. Again, you just have to see a couple of web charts here and there, and that's about it. When it comes to talking about LR, you're supposed to solve out-of-box reasoning questions from various books like Sam Lloyd, Martin Gardner, or maybe George Summers. The reason being, out-of-box reasoning in the last couple of days, 10 to 11 days that are to go from week 8 to CAT, will help you sharpen your mind and keep your neurons activated. Alright, when it comes to verbal, do sentence correction and completion, and since you've learned grammar over the weeks, you can do sentence correction and completion 10 to 15 questions every day, and get yourself geared up for the final leap or the last 4 days to go for CAT. When it comes to the mandatory thing that is supposed to follow from week 1 to week 8, when it comes to quant, you're supposed to practice at least 25 to 30 questions from week 1 to week 4, and at least 45 to 50 questions from 5 to 8 every day. Keep that in mind. This is something mandatory per section. So mandatory for quant is this. Mandatory for DI is supposed to do basics of tables, lines, and bars and pi, along with mixing solved every day. You must do at least 1 to 2 questions of DI every day. Okay. When it comes to LR, you must do seating arrangement in caselets 1 set a day from 3 to 8, because in week 3 you'll be starting with basic puzzles, so you can start from there. And week 5 you're starting full-fledged caselets, so you can do that every day, at least one set. And when it comes to verbal RCs, I would suggest 10 a day. You can say 10 per day from 1 to 4, and then from the remaining 4 weeks, 5 to 8, you're supposed to do 5 RCs a day. That should be great, I'm sure. Okay, so if you prepare according to this schedule, I'm sure by week 8 your score will reach somewhere around 160 plus odd marks, and that's what we need. Along with a little more strategy implemented and materialized, you can actually get a top B school call anyhow this year in CAT. Okay, so all the best for your CAT 16 preparation. Hope this schedule helps you and guides you further, and hope you follow the schedule really diligently so that you can absolutely nail your CAT examination this year. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you had a pleasant time.